In Greek mythology, there once lived a king and queen who ruled a peaceful land and were blessed with 3 daughters. The youngest of them was named Psyche, and from a very early age it was clear that she possessed an extraordinary beauty, one so rare that words struggled to describe it. People traveled from distant regions simply to catch a glimpse of her, drawn by a reputation that spread far beyond her homeland. They admired her quietly at first, then openly, until admiration slowly turned into reverence. Without meaning to, Psyche became the subject of devotion usually reserved for the gods. Temples once dedicated to Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty, began to grow silent. Offerings that once filled her altars were now placed before statues made in Psyche's likeness. Yet Psyche herself felt no joy in this attention. Though admired by many, she remained lonely. Men worshipped her beauty, but did not approach her as a woman. While her older sisters were married and began families of their own, Psyche remained alone, admired from afar, untouched by love. Aphrodite noticed the change in devotion and felt deeply insulted. To her, it was unacceptable that a mortal should receive the admiration meant for a goddess. Her anger grew, and she resolved to punish Psyche for what she believed was arrogance, even though Psyche herself had done nothing to invite such devotion. Aphrodite summoned her son Eros, the god of love, whose arrows had the power to inspire desire in gods and mortals alike. She ordered him to make Psyche fall in love with a man so cruel and unworthy that her suffering would serve as a lesson. Eros set out to carry out his mother's command. When he found Psyche asleep, he prepared to strike her with his arrow. But as he looked upon her face, something unexpected happened. His hand trembled, and the arrow grazed his own skin. In that moment, Eros fell in love with Psyche. Conflicted between obedience and his own feelings, he chose to protect her instead of harm her. Back in Psyche's kingdom, her parents grew increasingly worried. Their daughter's beauty had brought admiration, but no future. In desperation, they sought guidance from an oracle, and the prophecy they received filled them with fear and uncertainty. The oracle declared that Psyche was destined to marry not a mortal man, but a powerful and terrifying being who lived beyond the human world. Though heartbroken, they obeyed the prophecy, believing resistance would bring even greater suffering. Psyche was taken to a high mountaintop and left alone, dressed as if for a wedding, but filled with uncertainty. As she stood there, a gentle wind rose around her. It lifted her from the cliff and carried her safely away, gently setting her down in a quiet and peaceful valley. When she awoke, she found herself standing before a magnificent palace, unlike anything she had ever seen. Inside the palace, unseen voices welcomed her and attended to her needs. She was given food, comfort, and rest, yet she never saw those who served her. When night fell, her husband came to her. He spoke softly and treated her with kindness. Though she could not see him, she felt safe in his presence. He asked only one thing in return for his love, that she never attempt to look upon his face. Psyche agreed, choosing trust over fear. Days passed peacefully, and Psyche grew content. Love slowly replaced uncertainty, yet curiosity lingered in her heart. When she asked to visit her family, her husband hesitated but finally agreed, warning her that doubt could destroy what they shared. When Psyche's sisters saw her wealth and comfort, envy took hold of them, and they began questioning the nature of her unseen husband. They planted fear in her mind by suggesting that he was a monster, hiding his true and terrifying form. Though Psyche resisted at first, their words stayed with her. Fear overcame trust. One night, while her husband slept, Psyche lit a lamp and gazed upon him. Instead of a monster, she saw Eros himself, radiant and peaceful. Overcome with emotion, she leaned closer, and hot oil from the lamp spilled onto his shoulder. Awakened and wounded, Eros fled. He told Psyche that love could not survive betrayal and disappeared from her life. Filled with regret, Psyche wandered endlessly in search of him. When Psyche's long journey finally led her to Aphrodite, she arrived exhausted, humbled, and still driven by love rather than hope. She did not beg for mercy, nor did she defend herself. She simply stood before the goddess and accepted whatever judgment awaited her. Aphrodite looked upon Psyche with cold satisfaction. She agreed to allow Psyche the chance to reunite with Eros, but only if she could prove herself worthy through a series of trials. The first task Aphrodite gave her appeared simple at first glance, yet overwhelming in reality. Psyche was led into a vast room filled with towering piles of seeds and grains. Barley, wheat, lentils, poppy seeds, and countless others were mixed together in complete disorder. Aphrodite told her that by nightfall, every seed must be sorted into perfect piles, each type separated from the rest. Then the goddess left, certain the task would break her. Psyche sat among the endless grains, aware that no human could complete such work alone. She remained still, accepting the task with quiet resolve. As the sun began to lower, something small and unexpected happened. Ants emerged from the cracks in the floor, moving in steady lines. One by one, they carried the grains, sorting them with patience and care until by nightfall the task was complete. When Aphrodite returned and saw the perfect order before her, she was displeased but said nothing. Without praise or pause, Aphrodite assigned the second task. Psyche was sent to a distant field where fierce golden rams grazed along a riverbank. Their wool shimmered like sunlight, but the animals were known for their violent nature, especially during the heat of the day. Psyche was commanded to return with a bundle of their golden fleece, a task that would surely lead to injury or death if attempted directly. As Psyche approached the field, she saw the rams charging and clashing, their horns striking with force. She knew she could not face them. Overcome with uncertainty, she paused near the river, considering her fate. At that moment, a quiet voice rose from the reeds along the water. It advised her not to challenge the rams while they were restless, but to wait until evening, when they retreated into the shade. Then she could collect the wool caught on branches and thorns. Psyche followed the advice, and as the sun set, she gathered the golden fleece without harm. Once again, Aphrodite received the offering with visible frustration. The third task was more dangerous still. Aphrodite ordered Psyche to fetch water from a high mountain cliff, where a dark river flowed between jagged rocks. The waters were guarded by steep drops and treacherous paths, and the river itself was said to feed the underworld. When Psyche reached the mountain, she saw immediately that no human path led to the water. The cliff was sheer, and the roar of the river below filled her with fear. Standing at the edge, Psyche felt her strength fail, but an eagle descended from the sky and took the vessel from her hands, flew effortlessly to the river, and returned with it filled. Psyche accepted the vessel in silence, aware that she was being helped by forces beyond her understanding. Aphrodite took the water without gratitude and prepared the final task, the most dangerous of all. For the last trial, Aphrodite sent Psyche to the underworld itself. She was ordered to descend into the realm of the dead and request a small portion of beauty from its queen, sealed inside a box. The goddess warned her not to open the box and gave no guidance on how she was to return from the journey. Psyche understood the weight of this task more than any before. The underworld was not a place meant for the living. As she searched for a way to descend, Psyche contemplated surrender, believing this task was meant to end her journey. But once again, guidance came to her, quiet and precise. She was told where to find the entrance, what offerings to carry, and which voices to ignore. Following these instructions carefully, Psyche crossed into the land of the dead, passed through its trials, and reached the queen, who granted her the sealed box without resistance. The journey back was slow and heavy. As Psyche returned to the world above, the weight of exhaustion and longing pressed upon her. Holding the box in her hands, she thought of Eros and wondered if the beauty inside could help her become worthy of his love. Curiosity, which had once before changed her fate, returned once more. Despite the warning, she opened the box. There was no beauty inside. Instead, a deep and heavy sleep rose from it and surrounded her. Psyche fell to the ground, motionless, as though life itself had left her. It was there that Eros found her, having recovered from his wound and still deeply in love with Psyche. When he saw her lying motionless, he gently brushed away the enchanted sleep and brought her back to life. He forgave her without anger, understanding her trials and her human flaws. Determined not to lose her again, he carried her to the gods and pleaded for their union. Moved by their devotion, Psyche was granted immortality so she could live as Eros' equal. Their marriage was celebrated among gods and mortals alike. Even Aphrodite accepted the union, recognizing that Psyche had earned her place not through beauty, but through endurance, humility, and love. From their union came a child named Pleasure, and their story endured as a gentle reminder of the power of love.